Morning, everyone. My name is Alex Swan. I'm the site director of Church World Service Harrisburg. Just wanted to begin this morning by saying thank you to everyone who put together this wonderful event. Really appreciate the opportunity to present on Church World Service and the work that we do locally in the greater Harrisburg area. And thank you for everyone who is in attendance today, and looking forward to going through the presentation and obviously allowing some time at the end for some dialogue in case you have any questions or comments. And feel free to interrupt me because I think of the smaller group, we can have this a little bit more informal. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat or interrupt me and I can address them at the time. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see that okay? All right, let me go ahead and present. Okay, so I just wanted to start by talking about Church World Service as a global organization. So CWS is an organization that has a presence in over 30 countries around the world. Obviously, today I'm representing the local office in Harrisburg, which primarily focuses on refugee resettlement, but throughout the world, CWS does a variety of different things, including poverty alleviation, hunger prevention, as well as responding to disasters and doing sustainable development projects. So they do quite a variety of things throughout the nations, but within the United States, most of the local offices are focused on refugee resettlement, including our office in Harrisburg. So CWS, as a global organization, its vision is a world where everyone has food, voice, and a safe place to call home. And the mission of the organization is to transform communities around the globe through just and sustainable responses to hunger, poverty, displacement, and disaster. Again, the primary focus of the local offices throughout the United States is refugee resettlement, but you also might have heard of the crop hunger walks that CWS puts together, of course, which is focused on hunger prevention and alleviation, both locally. Some of the funds raised through those crop hunger walks stay in the local communities in which they're conducted. And then some of the funds also go to countries around the world where it's most needed. So a little bit of history about CWS. CWS was born in 1946 in the aftermath of World War II. At the time, there were a bunch of different denominations and churches responding in a variety of different ways to the aftermath of World War II, but they decided to come together and form what is now CWS to be able to better share resources and expertise and make a greater impact together as opposed to doing their separate individual work. Over time, with the adoption of the Refugee Resettlement Act in the United States, which really formalized the way that refugees are brought to the United States and welcomed and supported throughout the country, they did become one of the 9 national refugee resettlement agencies. So throughout the United States, there are a number of CWS offices that do the work of refugee resettlement, including locally in Lancaster as well as Harrisburg. And I'll get more into that as we go throughout the presentation. And just finally, local to CWS Harrisburg, our organization works with partners to give hope, opportunity, and relief to refugees and immigrants to promote a diverse and welcoming community. So we tested this video beforehand. I think we should be good. Let's give it a try. And obviously, if you can't hear it or can't see it, please interrupt me. But this is a video that our parent office, CWS Lancaster, as well as our office here in Harrisburg, collaboratively put together. It's a short video, about 3 minutes long, but I think it does a really good job just highlighting the work that we do in refugee resettlement, and includes some of our own new neighbors that we've welcomed, including, as you can see on the screen, this is Husna, who is actually one of our very first new neighbors that was welcomed by the CWS Harrisburg office, originally from Afghanistan, and also highlights some of our volunteers. So going to play this video, and then we will pick up with the rest of the presentation.
Church World Service Lancaster's mission is to welcome refugees from around the world.
We know that resettlement is a life-saving opportunity for folks.
Afghan refugees have already started arriving here in the United States.
I came from Afghanistan and I ended up in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg on 14 February.
I come first from Texas. We moved to Lancaster.
Church World Service, CWS is big help for me. They motivate me, they appreciate me. I have a job, I have a small house. Alex Swan was my case manager. He did his amazing job.
The case worker. She helped us and she applied jobs for us and for my husband first, after that for me. I start job in Strupis for first time for me in America, but I like it everything. Everything is good. All ladies are like friendly or family, work together. And we have English learn every day for 30 minutes. So that's very good for me. I like Lancaster because that's small and everything is good.
You can educate yourself, you can have a job, you can do everything you want. You have a freedom, you have your rights.
Thankful for all the agency.
It means a lot for me being here. You can be independent, you can stand on your feet. I'm confident now. I believe in myself.
All right. So like I said, I think that video just does a really good job of highlighting the work that both our parent office, CWS Lancaster, does, as well as our new office here in Harrisburg. Just wanted to put a plug in for Struppies. If you've been to Lancaster City, there is a awesome place called the Sweet Shop, and they sell the Dutch waffles called Struppies. If you haven't been there, highly recommend it. And they do just an amazing job of working with many of our new neighbors in the Lancaster community and providing them with employment opportunities, as well as ESL, and just helping them integrate into the community and become self-sufficient. So highly recommend visiting there if you have a chance. So in terms of CWS Harrisburg, we are a new office, and as I've alluded to, we are considered a sub-office to CWS Lancaster. Lancaster has had an office since the 1980s, and so they obviously have established themselves and have a bevy of experience, expertise, and resources that has been really quite a tremendous help in terms of guiding us through the process of opening an office in Harrisburg. The office in Harrisburg, actually the plans and preparation for opening a new office began before the fall of Kabul and the evacuation from Afghanistan, but it worked out perfectly in that because we had a new office in Harrisburg, we were also able to provide relief to some of our Afghan neighbors and really position ourselves well to be a part of that huge operation of welcoming our Afghan neighbors after the fall of Kabul in August of 2021. But some people asked that question. I just wanted to provide some clarification that there actually was a plan and preparations before that, but the timing was well so that we could be a part of those relief efforts. So our office officially opened in February of 2022, which is when we welcomed some of our new Afghan neighbors, including Husna, who is in the video. We are located at 2101 North Front Street, building number 3, suite 301 in Harrisburg, right next to the governor's mansion. We really lucked out with our office location. It has ceiling to floor windows, just a beautiful space overlooking the Susquehanna River. So if you're ever in town, we would love to welcome you, and you can kind of get a feel for our office, and potentially when you come, there might even be some of our clients that we're serving, as we do offer some in-person cultural orientation classes, ESL, these types of activities. So our arrivals to date, I alluded to the Afghan Placement and Assistance Program, which is the program that resettled quite a number of Afghans after the fall of Kabul. Locally, we welcomed 34 Afghans through that program. And then from February of 2022 until the end of our first federal fiscal year, which is September 30th of 2022, we also welcomed 90 refugee new neighbors through the Reception and Placement Program, which I'll talk more specifically about later. That's 90 total individuals. Some people ask if that's families. That's all the families combined. So that's the total number of individuals, not families that we welcomed. And then our current arrivals for this new fiscal year, which began in October 1, 2022, is 85. We have about 4.5 months left of the fiscal year. Our stated capacity is 110. So we're getting there at 85 right now, but we definitely still have some work cut out for us in terms of continuing to welcome and support our new neighbors in the greater Harrisburg area. And then we also do have a Ukrainian program, which I'll talk more specifically about. Our stated capacity for 2023 is welcoming and supporting between 55 and 75 Ukrainian humanitarian parolees. To date, we have welcomed right around 40. So we are working our way towards our goal of 55 to 75. So all in all, we've welcomed right around 165 to 185 total new refugee and immigrant neighbors since opening our office in February of 2022. And we're entering a really exciting time for refugee resettlement as the Biden and Harris administration laid the groundwork and the preparations to welcome 125,000 total refugees next fiscal year, starting on October 1, as well as 20,000 special immigrant visas or SIVs, for a total of 145,000 for next federal fiscal year. So there's a lot of capacity being built around the country, including in our office, to hit what is actually going to be a historical number of refugees welcomed to communities across the nation. So it's a really exciting time for refugee resettlement, and we're so glad that we have a new presence in Harrisburg and are able to be a part of that. So that's a little bit about our local office in Harrisburg. I'm going to get more into our specific programs that we offer, as well as ways that the community can get involved, but just wanted to kind of transition a little bit and just lay a foundation for the broader context of refugees and refugee resettlement. So currently there are an estimated 100 million displaced peoples around the world, including 27 million refugees. To put this into some perspective, that's about 1 in 78 people on Earth are displaced, including, again, the 27 million who qualify for that refugee status. So unfortunately, as we've seen in the news, it doesn't look like that's going to be slowing down anytime soon with the war in Ukraine and other crises that are going on around the world. So I think it's really important that we kind of provide some of that context that right now there's actually more displaced people in the world than there ever have been. And so it's important that we continue to prioritize this work and respond to welcoming and supporting our new neighbors. So obviously, when we think about refugees, I think we think of our shared humanity and our call to welcome the stranger and walk alongside our new neighbors to support them. But there's obviously also a legal definition to refugees, which I think is important, both as we serve them, but also a lot of our programs, they have to meet this legal definition of a refugee to be eligible. So I just wanted to highlight the actual definition of a refugee. So as the screen says, a refugee are people who flee their country because of a well-founded fear of persecution based on their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, and who are unable or unwilling to return home. This was defined at the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees. So this definition has been in place quite a long time, and it hasn't changed. I will say that some of the new populations that we're starting to welcome are actually humanitarian parolees, which have a slightly different legal definition, but for the sake of the work that we do, essentially treated the same as we welcome and support them. So as the definition alluded to, when a refugee has to, excuse me one second, just need to, I told Richard that my wife is a nurse, she's working right now, and so I'm also trying to keep an eye out on our 10-month-old baby. So a refugee meeting that legal definition after they flee their country for a well-founded reason for persecution, then obviously they usually go to a neighboring country where then they seek the ability to become refugees. So they have to present themselves at a refugee processing center and provide, the background and justification for why they legally fit the definition of a refugee. If they do, then they go through a variety of background and clearances, security checks, cultural orientation, some ESL, medical checkups, all of these types of things, as they either are resettled in that neighboring country if it's safe to do so, or potentially get in line essentially to be resettled permanently into a third country, including the United States. Believe it or not, refugee resettlement into a third country, such as the United States, is actually very rare. Only about 1% of eligible refugees are actually resettled in a third country. So it's a pretty small number compared to the 27 million refugees that are in the world. But just kind of wanted to provide some context, both the legal definition of refugees and then sort of the process for when they meet that definition, get to a neighboring country, all the activities that happen before they actually arrive into the United States. CWS operates the Refugee Processing Center in Africa. They're responsible for the entire continent of Africa. It's physically based in Kenya. So CWS does have that presence, but in terms of our local operations, we don't do anything with refugees overseas. We're not involved in any of the backgrounds and clearances and medical appointments and all that type of stuff. That's all done. And then once they go through that entire process, which unfortunately can take a very long time, we've welcomed some new neighbors who were in refugee camps for over 10 years. So unfortunately, it is a very long and slow process, especially as new global crises pop up. Some of the other populations that have been waiting a long time, unfortunately, can get placed on the back burner. So it is a very drawn out, slow process, but eventually there are some folks who get through that whole process and then are resettled into third countries, including here in the greater Harrisburg area. So I mentioned previously that in 1980, the Refugee Resettlement Act was passed in the United States. Before that, refugee resettlement was happening, but it was really private sponsorship. It was churches, faith-based groups stepping up and welcoming refugees, including in response to the Vietnam War, which of course within the local context of Pennsylvania, Fort Indiantown Gap at the time played a pretty significant role in welcoming and supporting Vietnamese neighbors. So it's cool to have that history within the central Pennsylvania area of doing this type of work. When the 1980 Refugee Resettlement Act passed, it formalized the way that refugees are brought to the country. So sort of what I just laid out, all of that happens overseas and then eventually come to the United States. So each year, the president at the time has to set a presidential determination on how many refugees are allowed to come to the United States. And so this graph, if you follow the blue line, that's the annual ceiling that is set by the president each year since 1980. You can see at the start, it was very, very high, dropped pretty significantly, kind of ebbed and flowed. After 9/11, it fell pretty dramatically, kind of rebounded later in the 2000s. And then under the previous administration, it hit historical lows. And now under the current administration, it's starting to go back up pretty significantly. So that's the blue line, the determination that the president makes each year on the number of refugees that can come to the country. And then the orange line is probably the more important one. That's the number of actually admitted refugees. So for various reasons, even though sometimes the ceiling can be set pretty high, the actual number of admitted refugees usually lags somewhat significantly. For example, during COVID, obviously that put a pause on refugee resettlement. Under the previous administration, there was a lot of infrastructure that was taken away. And so because of that, even though the current administration is setting higher ceilings, it's still taking some groundwork, capacity building to actually be able to welcome this many number of refugees. So just providing some context, sort of the history of refugee resettlement within the United States. Locally, this pie chart highlights the number of refugees that CWS Harrisburg has welcomed since 2022 when we opened our office in February. So predominantly the countries that we've seen folks come from are the Democratic Republic of Congo. We've had 68 Congolese neighbors that we've supported since opening our operation, as well as a significant amount from Afghanistan and Guatemala, and a pretty big amount from Syria as well. So those are kind of the big four: the DRC, Afghanistan, Guatemala, and Syria. And then you can see there are a few other countries where we've had just one or two or a handful of individuals come from, including Burma, Sudan, Guinea, Nepal, Iraq, as well as Venezuela. All indications are kind of pointing to these trends continuing. Lancaster has, since they've opened their office in 1980, also has a very strong history of welcoming several neighbors from the DRC. And then, of course, with the fall of Kabul and the Afghan evacuation, many resettlement agencies continue to welcome and support new Afghan neighbors. And then Guatemala and Syria, there have been a number of folks coming from those countries as well. So as we kind of think about the next few years of our organization, all trends are suggesting that these are probably going to continue to be the biggest populations that we see. This chart doesn't capture Ukrainians because it's somewhat of a separate program, which I will talk about later here in the presentation. So these are the programs that our office has. We have the Reception and Placement Program, or RMP for short. We have our Matching Grant Program, Refugee Social Services, Preferred Communities, the PC GAPS program, which is the Ukrainian program, as well as a unique local program that only our office has called CWS Marketplace. So I'm going to get into the programs more in depth here, and we'll start with Reception and Placement, or RNP. RNP is the traditional refugee resettlement program for how refugees come to the country, again, established in 1980 and continuing to today. So once they are legally a refugee, they go through all of the processes that I highlighted and are finally authorized travel to the United States. That's when our office gets a notification that a family will be coming. We get an arrival date. We get some background information, including demographic information, names, ages, country of origin, languages spoken. We also get some medical documents just to give us a general idea of the family that we're going to be walking alongside and supporting. And then obviously that helps us start preparations for how big of houses we need to look for, what type of medical resources do we need to start preparing, all those types of things. So once they actually arrive in Harrisburg, that's really obviously when our work gets started. So within the RMP program period, we provide 90 days of essential services, starting with that airport pickup. We go there usually alongside community groups and volunteers, pick up the family, and the first thing that we're responsible for is housing. In ideal world, they would go straight to a permanent house, but unfortunately right now, housing is by far one of the biggest challenges to refugee resettlement. We all probably know that right now, in general, there's a housing crisis. And then when you start to work with people who don't have a job right away, who don't have a credit history in the United States, all these other factors, it makes it even more difficult to find permanent housing for them. So if we are unable to find a permanent house at the beginning, fortunately, we do have some funding to provide temporary housing, either in hotels or Airbnbs, as we continue our search to find that permanent option for them. So that's one of the core services we provide is housing. Once we identify a permanent house, we'll furnish the property, conduct a housing orientation to make sure they understand how to work all the appliances, all these other types of things. And then we provide food when they arrive. We usually, if we're working with a community group, we ask that community group to take the lead on preparing a welcome meal, some type of meal that they would be accustomed to in their home country. And then we also provide food, usually in partnership with the Pennsylvania Food Bank, Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, to provide them food until they start getting their public benefits, and then obviously get a job, and so they're able to support themselves. We also provide clothing, start to think about ESL options in the community. We conduct cultural orientation classes at our office. We schedule comprehensive medical appointments that are required for all of our new neighbors. If they have children, we get their children enrolled in school, help them get their social security cards, all these other essential services to lay the foundation for them to restart their lives in a new community, and guide them slowly towards self-sufficiency. So again, this is our, bread and butter refugee resettlement 90-day program, where we provide 23 core services over those 90 days. This is the PC GAPS program. This is our Ukrainian program. It's set up similar to our RMP program, where it's also a 90-day case management program where we provide core services. But unlike refugees who come through the RMP program, Ukrainians are actually being privately sponsored. And so it's the requirement of the sponsor to take the lead on many of the core services that we traditionally provide as a refugee resettlement agency. But we go out into the community, we identify these Ukrainian humanitarian parolees who are in our communities. We check in with them and their sponsors just to make sure that they don't need any type of technical assistance from us or any resources that might be helpful in guiding them through these core services. So it's really in partnership with our agency as well as the sponsors to support our Ukrainian neighbors through the PC GAPS program. That's why the program is called GAPS, because our role in this program is really just kind of filling in the gaps wherever is most helpful for the sponsor and the family to reach self-sufficiency. So it's somewhat similar to the RMP program in that it is 90 days, but it's not as intensive for our office because the sponsors are doing a lot of this for their new neighbors. We're just filling in the gaps that are needed. Then we have our matching grant program. Our matching grant program is one of our 2 employment-based programs. So within the first 30 days, when a new family arrives through the RMP program, they meet with one of our employment specialists and they conduct an employment assessment with all of the members in the family who are eligible to work. If we believe that they would be a good fit for a matching grant program, which essentially the only qualification for a matching grant program is 1, they're able and willing to work, and 2, that they plan to stay in the greater Harrisburg area for at least 8 months, because that's how long our program is. If they meet those 2 things, we usually enroll them in our matching grant program. What that does is, instead of just us providing 90 days of support, we're now able to provide pretty comprehensive support for up to 8 months. That's how long the matching grant program is. And really, although there's other services that are providing through the matching grant program, it's really focused on employment for those in the family who are of age, able and willing to work. So they'll walk alongside one of our employment specialists, start to develop a job resume, start to search for jobs. If there's any barriers to employment, such as childcare, ESL, transportation, any other challenges like this, the employment specialist will help them overcome those challenges. So it's a really great program and really allows us more time to work with the family to ensure that they get good paying jobs, and that after the end of the 8 months, they will be self-sufficient and be able to support themselves moving forward. The reason it's called matching grant is because in addition to all the services that we provide, we are required to raise a match. So for each person enrolled in our matching grant program, we have to raise up to $1,000 in value of match. That doesn't have to all be financial donations. It can also be in-kind donations as well. So any, maybe we get a car donated, or ESL curriculum, or clothing, or food, or any of these types of things that'll help them towards their journey towards self-sufficiency. We can count those things as match in addition to just financial donations to help the family through their 8-month matching grant program. So that's where the name comes from. And it is a alternative to the other employment program that we offer, which I will also talk about here shortly. So in addition to the matching grant program, which is considered an extended services program because it's post RMP 90-day resettlement, we also have a great program in our office called Preferred Communities. Preferred Communities is for our most vulnerable new neighbors. In fact, they have to meet a specific vulnerability category to be eligible for the program. As you can see on the screen, we listed the vulnerability categories that they could potentially be eligible for intensive case management, which includes minors, young adults without parents, single parents, elderly, LGBTQ+, those dealing with social and psychological trauma, HIV and AIDS, survivors of torture, domestic or sexual gender-based violence, substance misusers, disabled and ill, or just generally dealing with some social isolation. So upon arrival, and as we work with the family, if we think that they fit into one of these categories and that they're just really struggling towards their journey of self-sufficiency, we would make a referral to our Preferred Communities team. They would sit down with one of our intensive case managers who's trained to deal with these types of populations, do a full evaluation, and then make a determination whether they should be enrolled in our program or not. If they are enrolled, we're able to walk alongside them for a minimum of 6 months and potentially all the way up to 2 years if they need that type of intensive case management over a 2-year period. And they sit down with the individual and develop a self-sufficiency plan, including a slew of goals and objectives, and walk alongside them in partnership with the community and the resources within the community to help them become self-sufficient. So unlike our matching grant program, which is really focused on the entire family becoming self-sufficient, primarily through employment, the Preferred Communities Intensive Case Management Program is focused on a very particular vulnerable individuals and walking alongside them to help them towards self-sufficiency. The last program that we have to offer is called Refugee Social Services. This is an alternative to matching grant. Again, it's another employment-based program where referrals are actually coming from the county assistance offices. Predominantly, we work with Dauphin and Cumberland County, but technically we serve surrounding county as well, including all the way up to Center County in the State College area. But very similar to matching grant, it's a long-term 1-year program where they're linked with an employment specialist to help them develop job resumes, help them identify jobs. And then because it's a 1 year, we usually have in the later half of the program some opportunities to work with them to actually advance in their job and get some better pay as they help themselves and their family towards self-sufficiency. And then this slide, this is our CWS Marketplace program. I mentioned very briefly at the beginning of the presentation that this program is very unique to our office. It's locally funded by a couple of different foundations, including the Link Bank Foundation, as well as the Stabler Foundation in Harrisburg. So this is really exciting. Essentially, the purpose of this program is to help empower our women refugee neighbors through entrepreneurship and employment. So early on, when we opened our office, we participated in a number of community events, including Arts Fest, which is the picture you see here. And we thought it would just be a really cool outlet. We noticed that a lot of our women new neighbors had incredible skills and abilities, and we're making some really cool things. And we wanted to just provide an outlet and a platform for them to share their culture, share their story, as well as share the items that they handmade, and allow them to make some supplemental income, but more importantly, just empower them through community and entrepreneurship. So the Arts Fest last year was kind of a pilot program. And then after that, we realized that this could really grow into something special and meaningful to a lot of our new women refugee neighbors. So we went after some funding. We're fortunate enough to get some funding to stand up our CWS Marketplace program. So now we actually have a CWS Marketplace staff member who's focused on when we have new families arrive, they do an employment and entrepreneurship assessment with our women refugee neighbors, get an idea if there's any types of arts or crafts or food that they can make and want to sell at various events. And then we provide them with the resources as well as the training that's needed for them to be successful, as well as continue to find local events and opportunities to sell their products. This year, we are participating in a couple of different festivals throughout the summer. I know we're also looking towards Capona in the fall during Labor Day weekend. And we're also starting to develop some online platforms for some of our women refugee neighbors to sell their products. If you go on our website, there's actually a page dedicated to CWS Marketplace. We have inventory listed there, as well as the stories of the artisans themselves, which are written by them, which we think is really cool that they can share their story the way they wanted it to be shared. So just a really neat program that we're excited about and is local here to the CWS Harrisburg office. So obviously it really takes everyone to do this type of work. We're still a pretty small team. As of right now, we have 14 employees, divided both through our resettlement program, which is focused again on that 90-day case management, as well as our extended services, which are longer term programs, including matching grant and preferred communities. We are continuing to hire for new positions, but we're obviously always looking for opportunities to engage with the community, including churches and faith-based groups, to walk alongside us, and more importantly, walk alongside our new neighbors to do this really important, critical work together as a community. So there's a number of ways that people can get involved if this type of work is of interest to them. As I alluded to, one of our programs, the matching grant program, requires us to raise financial and in-kind donations. But in addition to that, we always need those types of resources to help our new neighbors, whether it's furniture for their new homes or clothing or donated food or financial resources to help them buy a car or help them with a month's worth of rent. All these things really go a long way. And so that's one way to get involved. Obviously, advocacy and outreach is another, just engaging the community in these types of conversations to, one, make people aware that refugee resettlement is happening in their local communities and that we really believe it's really important and critical work that needs to be done. And then there's the New Speakers Bureau, which is predominantly focused on our new neighbors themselves, giving them a platform and training to actually share their stories. So we have volunteers for that program as well as our CWS Marketplace program. But the last one there, the welcome teams, that's probably the greatest way that a group, a faith-based group, a church could get involved, is coming alongside our organization and helping us deliver those 23 core services that we're required to deliver. So we provide training and technical assistance with groups of people who want to get behind this work, and we walk alongside them for however long they want to. Some teams just want to be involved in that 90 days. Other teams are willing to do it all the way up for a year, just to continue to help our new neighbors towards self-sufficiency. So these are just some ideas, if this work is of interest to you, of how you can get involved in it. We have a ton of really great information on our website, which is cwsharrisburg.org. And you can go to our Get Involved tab, and it gives you some more ideas and resources there. We're more than willing to come to churches or organizations or groups of people and do these types of presentations, whatever would be most beneficial to you and your team, if you're interested in this type of work. And of course, if you don't want to be a part of a full team that's welcoming and walking alongside our new neighbors, we have a bevy of individual volunteer opportunities, including we're always looking for interpreters. We're always looking for people to help us just move people to where they need to move, whether that's actually, helping them with moving into their new home, getting them to a medical appointment, helping them set up a bank account, helping them get enrolled in ESL classes, all these types of things that go into the work that we do. We would welcome you with open arms, especially if there's a particular interest that you have that you want to pair with one of our needs of our organization. We love those types of conversations and are pretty flexible in terms of how we can utilize individual volunteers. So if any of this is of interest to you, again, you can visit our website. I will also share my contact information in the chat. You can shoot me an email and we can start those types of conversations. Lastly, before we open it up for any Q&A, and if there's anything else that you would like me to talk about, be more than willing to do that. Just wanted to highlight some of our upcoming events. So we're kind of coming at the tail end of our 1-year anniversary. Again, our office opened in February of 2022. And so just this past year, we had a film event at the West Shore Theater in New Cumberland, where we showed a Ukrainian film, and we also just celebrated our 1 year of welcome. That was a really great community event. It was really neat to see a lot of our new neighbors and community members and community partners come to that event and celebrate our 1 year of welcome. Now that we're kind of moving into year number 2, we're starting to think about additional programs and opportunities and events that we want to put on for the community as well as our new neighbors. So the most exciting one this year that's coming up pretty soon is our World Refugee Day block party on June 24th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. We are fortunate enough where our office is located to have a huge parking lot. And so we thought it'd be a great opportunity just to have an event that is free to the public to just celebrate our new neighbors, our refugees and our immigrants and all they bring to Harrisburg's welcoming community. And so on Saturday, June 24th from 12 to 3 in our parking lot, we're going to have all sorts of fun, free activities open to the general public as well as all of our new neighbors. We're going to have a petting zoo, some face painting, henna painting, a DJ, photo booth, balloon artists, as well as a number of food trucks. I think we also secured a big inflatable slide. So just a lot of cool, fun things to really just celebrate the diversity and welcoming community of Harrisburg. So if this is of interest to you, we also have more information on our website. It is going to be a rain or shine event. So praying and hopeful that it'll be shine and not rain. But either way, we're going to be doing it and really looking forward to our first annual World Refugee Block Party. And we are actively looking for sponsorships. There's more information on our website that provide different levels of sponsorship. But we really want each activity that we're providing to the community to be sponsored by some organization. So if that's of interest to you, again, more information can be found at our website, cwsharrisburg.org. And would love to have you attend the day. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and really looking forward to it. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight an event that just want to get on people's calendars and on their radar because I know how busy all of us can get. Last year, we had an amazing annual fundraiser called International Friendsgiving. It was the Saturday right before Thanksgiving. The idea behind it was so many of our new neighbors are bringing amazing customs, traditions, culture, and a part of that is food. And food is really something that brings us all together, right? And so we decided to reach out to some of our clients and ask them if there were any particular recipes that they'd be willing to share from their home country. And so we were able to work with some of our artisans who are enrolled in our CWS Marketplace program. And we had 5 of our women refugee neighbors share their recipes. And then we got a caterer to partner with us and sort of mass produce those. And then we put them in individual dinner boxes. We had people come to the Haiti Mosque in Harrisburg, sort of had like a informal drive-through. People were able to order however many boxes they wanted. We ended up selling about 500 boxes, which we were just super thankful for and excited about. And now we're starting to look forward to year number 2 of International Friendsgiving. So I shared the date there, Saturday, November 18th. Again, it'll be at the Haiti Mosque, which is 2 minutes from our office, right near Front Street, near the governor's mansion. And more to come with that, but just wanted to put a plug in for that and get the save the date out there as well. So that is all I had for you today. If you are active in social media, we are on Facebook, Instagram, as well as I shared our website. A lot of really great information is there. We're constantly sharing stories and events that we're participating in. Just anytime we get to celebrate our new neighbors, our wonderful volunteers, our community members, we love to put that out on social media on our website. So a lot of really neat things happening. It's really exciting to have an office in Harrisburg, to have already done 1 year of really important work, and looking forward to continuing to work alongside the community to do the important work of refugee resettlement. So I will pause there, opening it up. I know we have plenty of time here for some questions and answers. And if there's anything that you would like me to kind of go back and clarify or talk more about, I'd be more than willing to do that. I see there was a question about sharing statistics and some of the information that I went over, and I can absolutely do that. I'll send out an email to the group here, and if there's any additional information, like I said, I'll go ahead and share my email address, and you can feel free to send me a message anytime. And would love to have those conversations. I'm not hearing any questions, not seeing any in the chat. So maybe I'll just use some of this remaining time. I'll go ahead and pull up our website, and I can just kind of show you where you can find some additional information, if that'd be helpful. All right. All right. Hopefully you can all see our website here. Again, this is cwsharrisburg.org. On our homepage here, if you scroll down, we have some more information about CWS Marketplace. So this just gives a little summary of the program. And then this is probably the most exciting part. So a lot of our new neighbors weren't necessarily comfortable with them sharing their actual photos. And so we decided to make some memojis of them instead, which fortunate enough to have a staff member who's really creative in this way and did a great job with this. But these are our current artisans who are enrolled in our CWS Marketplace program. If you go ahead and click on each one, it'll share their story. And again, this was them sharing what they wanted to share. So it's really neat that each one is a little bit different. And it's presented in the way that they wanted to present it. So one of my favorites, Nazdana, she was one of our very first Afghan new neighbors that came in February of last year. And I could just read her story briefly as an example. So Nazdana's husband served in the US Army in Afghanistan for nine years. When Kabul fell, their family was forced to flee their home in fear of Taliban retribution. Nazdana has always been creative and enjoys sewing, embroidery, and designing. Has two beautiful little boys and loves bonding with them as they learn English together. She's so excited at the opportunity to support her family and sell her handmade crafts in her new U.S. home. So hopefully it just gives you an example of some of our artisans and the stories, which are really important to share with our community. So you can check this out on our website. This is just an idea, an example of some of our products that have been made. These are kind of the categories that we have, including some home products. This is some handmade napkins, baby products. We have some headbands. This is actually my daughter, Sophie, they used as a model one day, which is kind of cool. Beauty products, as well as some pet products. We were actually at Wolfstock last year and we decided to make some handmade dog scarves, which was really awesome. So if there's any type of event where gets the community together and there's opportunities to sell some of these products, we're more than willing to participate in them. As of right now, if you actually want to buy something from our website, you just have to email our resettlement supervisor, who is Duri Sharif. This is her email here, and she'll send you the most up-to-date inventory list, and then you can decide what you would like to purchase to support our artisans. I don't think I mentioned this, but in terms of the structure of the program, one of the most exciting parts about it is that 100% of the funds go directly back to our artisans, and we pay them up front, so it's not dependent on how many they actually sell. So they'll make a certain amount of products. We do an evaluation of how much we think they are. We give them the money that the product is worth, and then we sell them, and that money goes directly back to them. So really neat that it provides that type of empowerment, both just bringing people together in community, providing resources, as well as some financial support. So that's our CWS Marketplace program. If you go to our About tab, this is our staff. This constantly is being updated. We currently have 2 employment specialist positions posted, as well as a part-time housing and transportation specialist posted. So we're in the process of hiring additional staff members. So if this work is of interest to you, you can also reach out to me, because we're constantly hiring, or if you know of other folks who might want to be involved with our office. This is our news and media section. I did a brief interview with What's the Word Harrisburg, so that can be found here. This is a refugee testimonial. This is Husna, a little bit different than the video we watched, goes more in depth to her story. And some articles that were published, including one about an Afghan wedding. This couple, Samir and Tamana, were one of our first refugee new neighbors to come to our community. They ended up resettling in Carlisle. They were actually supposed to get married right before Kabul fell, and so unfortunately had to postpone their wedding, but we were able to be a part of their wedding day in Carlisle. So just a really special opportunity for our community to be involved with. And then some other articles down here at the bottom as well. If you can always invite a speaker, or if you again are interested in employment, this is where we keep our employment information updated. If you click on our work tab, I know someone talked about some more information about our programs. This is a great place to look. It just gives a brief synopsis about each program that we offer in our office. And again, if there's additional information that you would like, you can click learn more, or just send me an email and we would love to provide you with that information. The Get Involved tab, as I mentioned, a number of ways to get involved with our organization, including donations, volunteering, educating, advocating, renting. Again, housing is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So we're always looking for landlords and property owners and real estate agents who are willing to work with us to rent to our new neighbors, as well as hiring our new neighbors as well. So just a bunch of different ways that get involved with our office and welcoming and supporting our new neighbors. Welcome Corps, more information coming soon on this. This is a new program that was stood up by the federal government. It's a 100% private sponsorship program. So as I mentioned early on in the presentation, we're moving into a time of refugee resettlement where we're going to be hitting some historically high numbers of 145,000 next federal fiscal year. And so that's going to take everyone. That's going to take refugee resettlement agencies across the nation. And it's also going to take new innovative approaches, including Welcome Corps. So essentially, Welcome Corps is a group of people getting together, deciding that they want to provide core services to our new refugee neighbors, and being private sponsors and walking alongside them to help them towards self-sufficiency. So it's essentially little mini private resettlement agencies that are individually going to be sponsoring families. So more information coming soon on that program. Lastly, we have the events tab here highlighting our Refugee Day block party and additional events as they come, including our International Friendsgiving will be posted here. So hopefully this is helpful.
Alex, a question we had in the chat is,
yeah.
Is there something similar in the Lancaster area for an International Day Friendsgiving?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that Lancaster's big annual fundraiser is participating in the Extra Give, which is in Lancaster. And so they don't do anything such as International Friendsgiving, but I know they partner with other organizations that do similar type work. And I'm not sure if other agencies have a similar program such as International Friendsgiving, but I know our colleagues in Lancaster, they do not. And so we invited them last year to help us out. They were a huge help, had a number of CWS Lancaster staff come to our event. And so, yeah, I can confirm if there's any other such type of event, but I know that in terms of CWS, there's not currently one in Lancaster.
I just asked on the chat, how does what you do dovetail with Lutheran resettlement programs?
Yeah, great question. So the Lutheran resettlement program is all the work that we do. They essentially provide the exact same services. They're just another national refugee resettlement agency. I think all of the resettlement agencies, both in Harrisburg and Lancaster, do a really good job of working collaboratively together. For example, I know we work very closely with Jewish Family Services in Harrisburg, who really specialize in mental health and well-being. And so if there's any of our new neighbors who we think could benefit from some of their specialized programs, we send them their way. International Service Center, which is another agency in Harrisburg, they do a great job with providing interpretation and translating documents. And so if we have that type of need, we'd send them there. There's also Catholic Charities as well as Bethany Christian Services. So even though each agency offers very similar programs and we're responsible, obviously, to fulfill those programs, I think each office offers something a little unique as well. For example, us offering the CWS Marketplace. So it really takes everyone, and it's been really neat to see just within our 1 year being in Harrisburg, working collaboratively with other agencies, including the one that you mentioned, the Lutheran Resettlement Program.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, any other questions, comments?
Alex, thank you for your faithful ministry and really the ways that you are helping us all live into our calling.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to present today. I think this connection was originally made by Reverend George Scott, is a new member of our advisory committee that we just started. In fact, we're gearing up for just meeting number 2 in a few weeks. So appreciate George connecting me with this day. I think it's a really important day and looking forward to continuing to engage in this important work together as a community. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
And Alex, thank you. And thank you all for being with us. And we are going to resume for for some closing remarks from the bishop at 11:45 a.m. And I think anyone who needs to take a bit of a break, please feel free. And we'll see you back in about a half an hour.